Hello, everyone. It is November 21st, 2020. Good evening to everybody streaming. We actually got a good crowd tonight on Theta, D-Live, and Twitch. We've got 10 or so people watching to kick it off. So welcome, everybody. We're going to keep going on with the topics from the last Patreon video. This being, this one's actually titled already, 12/21 Winter Solstice Ritual Solidified. It's very much what we're going to talk about in the banking reset being on the horizon. More evidence of Templar stewardship along the way as well. This is an extension of, if you have not seen the video that is still processing over on BitChute. It's called New Jerusalem and Earth's Hidden Destiny, Templar Earth Guardians and the Ancient Cosmic Rituals. This is an extension of that. If you haven't watched this, it's not up on BitChute yet. Try as I may, try as I might. You see, the first attempt I made was on November 12th, the day that I recorded it, and luckily I was able to get it up on Theta. If you're following me on Theta, you can go down to the videos section here, and I was able to upload the raw footage here. The only thing is there's one point where the sound drops for about 3 minutes. And I fixed the sound pretty immediately. It's just, that's what you're going to deal with that one. It's not edited. It's just the raw footage from the stream. But at least it'll give you the presentation until this stuff is uploaded. So before we get started, that's kind of just some housekeeping stuff. I have found a way to get off of BitChute and YouTube entirely eventually. I'm going to keep posting to them to the best that I can, but the problem with BitChute is their infrastructure can't handle the influx of people coming in that are getting banned from YouTube, I suspect. And that's what's causing the hitch with my stuff being processed and you guys being able to watch it. But I did just upload, I just connected my YouTube account with this new streaming service called Odyssey, which Odyssee promises to be a little bit better streaming platform. And storage platform for your archives. It doesn't have any of the censorship, and it's also got its own microcurrency system, of course. But it's cool because I'm able to break up into multiple channels. So I'm actually going to be able to build out the private community for the Patreon channel a lot easier using this platform plus this platform. So moving forward, you can effectively find this as a secondary archive. I'm going to start uploading all the Patreon videos here. That way we can keep them separate a lot easier even than we can do a BitChute. And then this will be kind of like a mirror of, this channel will just be a mirror of my YouTube. It didn't migrate everything perfectly. As you can see, it's got a lot of them over here, but it only got like 3/4 of them transferred. I got to go back through and upload some that didn't. But pretty slick, and I think this is probably going to be a site that you guys want to peg because it's got better technology than BitChute. Plus, as you can see, it's got a lot better features for archiving and things. So you can follow me over there too. It's just going to be a mirror for all this stuff just to hedge our bets against anything getting banned also. So you guys can go find me elsewhere just in case. I'm such a small channel on YouTube. I can't imagine I would get banned even for the stuff that I'm talking about. I'm pretty careful about what we're saying. But anyway, I just wanted you guys to know that. And as it goes with the $15 tier, I think a few of you guys are watching tonight. Monthly shout out to KDAX, Shaff, Womp Womp, J Farmer, Syrup Turris, and S4 Quattro Bob, because they're all in the $15 investigator tier. So I just wanted to give you guys a shout out and particular thank you for the research that you're doing and continuing to do over on the vCipher side of things with in the Discord channel. And hopefully you guys are using the Evernote server to your heart's content to find stuff. Most of the stuff we've been discussing over in Discord has been just other stuff on YouTube. And by the way, Lavette, Lavette, for anybody even that's watching this at the $3 tier, let's say, I would check out her YouTube channel. There's a lot of steganography that we're actually not going to talk about tonight. So it's just a cool spot that we have found of cross section of the specific vCipher that we use, I think. course, that we look at in the gematria and the whole ritual reset. And that's kind of where we're starting tonight, because as everybody knows, I just spent the last 5 minutes basically going back through the New Jerusalem and Earth's Hidden Destiny ritual. If you watch what that was all about in the Venus family's book, where this Washington Monument shadow touches Ellipse Park up here on 12/21 to inseminate an egg. It's an egg ritual, right? So if you haven't watched that video, you're going to be out of your depths here a little bit, because I intend just to keep going on forward without having to do too much backtracking with that ritual. So you're going to have to go, again, watch on the Theta channel that video before you're even going to know, because that's just what I'm going to assume you guys already know going into this. And we're going to be referencing the gematria that we have for Wizard of Oz, the reset scenario, what they both have to do with each other, the wishes and rainbows scenario. That's going to factor in again today as well. Okay? So just to frame your mind around this, we've got something I didn't totally close the door on last time, and it was the 7 sevens that we were mentioning. Had a lot to do with the Trump administration. I think it still is up here. I may have taken it down, but there was the 666 Fifth Avenue building that Jared Kushner owns, where the secrets and the knowledge are kept in the Trump family. And all of the 77s that we talked about last time that surrounded his inauguration. He was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 weeks old. So triple sevens. And I showed how it was significant, at least in Zach Hubbard's 9/11 ritual, at least partially. But the reason why 77 is part of the ritual at all, remember, is because if we're going back to the knowledge video from Nainanya in her channel, she did a video on June 6th that we've referenced a lot as it pertains to the ISIS riddle and the particular point in time that we're in, where we have Venus going directly through in a V pattern through the horns of Taurus, 7th month, 7th day. So it's July 7th of this year that this happened. We have the 77 to demarcate all of the riddles that we've been talking about around this. The knowledge bearer of Thoth adorns the headdress of Isis in this time with all that is encompassing with the Hermetic symbol of the science, magic, arts, and judgment. This is to say that Thoth imbued Isis at some point in time, the Mary myth of Egypt, of Anatoly Fomenko's, history or science, fact or fiction, the chronology series, arguing that once the Isis that was wearing the headdress of the Taurus, because this is what Isis looked like for a very long period of time in Egyptian mythology, until Mary, who embodied that energy, moved there physically. And all of a sudden you see her being depicted with this. So you've got the virgin energy. Remember, this ritual, I think I've said, took place when we were in the where was the part where she was talking? There's a Virgo ritual in here too, and I forget how she phrased it. This is her research, and I'm recalling it imperfectly. Because when this happens in Taurus, there was and I don't know if it's even in this video. Here's the piece where she's showing the V, though, very specifically the V steganography and why it ties in directly with what we're doing. But I'm sorry I wasn't able to find that, guys. It was just this is the ritual that we're looking at anyway, between what happened on the 7th day and the 7th month and the 7th day of that month this year, and as it pertains to Donald Trump, essentially based on the ritual of the last video and the other banking clues that I found between now and then. But this is an older article that Zach Hubbard did. Again, I referenced it last time briefly. It was done in 2017. Funny, it was done on V-Day. I don't know what that has to do with it. If he just caught a wave and did this on one of the V-Days, Victory Day over Japan in World War II. But he points out here that this passport that Neo has in the Matrix is 9/11/01, and that's the date of its expiration. The day the Matrix comes apart, basically, is what he's arguing is happening with this. And this is precisely 20 years minus 1 day after his date of birth, at least on this passport. And he does some other numerology breakdown. So September 11 is commonly written as 11/9, sometimes like 119. Remember, if we go back to our codes, 119 is all over the Nikola Tesla, Star of David, Merkaba, Star Wars. The Star Wars program technology likely took the Twin Towers apart. So this stuff all factors into the mimetic symbolism we're talking about tonight, and what it has to do with the imagery that you saw, again, with the destroyed Pentagon here from 9/11, how the Pentagon's design saved lives on September 11th, and what I'm finding with that, because it's pretty interesting in terms of the spells that are being lobbed at each other. So if you go down to September 11th, it's real interesting. It equals 77. World Trade Center equals 77. United States equals 77. You also have power. You have Judaism and Matrix. So his in theater equals 77. You have to understand something about Zach. He's convinced that the Zionist control group is in control of Earth's agendas. I'm not of the same conclusion. We can talk about this when we do Z-steganography. That falls into the Z-steganography category, and that can be saved for a different day. I can just tell you that if you go through his work, it shades that way. So not necessarily anything that I shade toward myself, just to remain completely objective with you. But here's where he's also talking about the Pentagon itself. Never forget that Flight 77 on September 11th crashed into the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian, exactly 77 minutes after taking off. So what the heck happened here at the Pentagon is all these 77s, and remember the World Trade Center, September 11th, also equal 77. Tying back to a very important day of this year, July 7th, when Venus transits through Taurus. Birth canal ritual is what we were talking about last time, where Mary the Virgin is associated. So you keep going further. Never forget the story about 9/11 and the pancake eating contest either. Every word above has gematria of 77. The Matrix release, I don't know what this pancake eating contest thing's all about. The Matrix released just before September 11th, 2001. It was the biggest movie with Fight Club at the time, or since Fight Club at the time. Fight Club ends with world banking towers falling in free fall. So he's tying a lot of the movies, the Fight Club and Matrix at the time, for the harbingers of what was to come. So he goes through some more symbology and connects the Matrix to a lot of the key numbers of 47 that we've talked about before. But he goes further and further and further with this one and starts tying it to the Matrix. As far as 9/11 goes, is what I want to talk about, because it's more relevant to the banking rituals and this collapse that we're seeing, that we talked about last time with the Washington Monument rituals and the Venus family factions, and the 666 that we find when we add the 234 pages of affidavits alleging allegation of fraud in the elections, and the 432 behind the Four Seasons landscaping, all happening in the same day, where they also are creating a ritual fence around Ellipse Park. So that this ritual where the Washington Monument will penetrate the Ellipse Park, the egg, the phallus penetrating the egg, on the solstice of this year, the solstice of every year, but particularly important because of what this year conveyed, a once in 27,000 year event where Venus perfectly goes in a V pattern through Taurus. We're starting to see that because we're also at the tip of the Great American Solar Eclipse, right between the tribulation, where X marks the spot we've talked about so many times, right? We're right in the middle of this period at the solstice, at the peak of the middle of the period, at the peak of the chaos. So the stuff that the book of Revelation talks about cosmologically, we're living through right now. We can essentially say that conclusively because of all the things that line up in terms of the symbology. Hi, Jay Farmer. How you doing? Good to have you on the stream. So what I mean to share with you is that V steganography, of course, with the 77 tying back to this in the V pattern, goes further than just the ritual of Washington, D.C. and the current baking collapse. Because anybody who's looked into 9/11, and we needn't go into it too deeply here, knows that it was a banking coup of proportions that were beyond anything that can be comprehended with a critical mind. You know, the Building 7 fiasco, where all the gold vault of J.P. Morgan was, where they had their whole physical storage facility of gold. And when it fell down, the story is inconclusive about what happened to all this gold, but several trucks were seen exiting, vacating whatever they were hauling in the hours leading up to that building collapse, which was, the biggest enigma of the day, because nothing hit it to necessarily render it weakened. So you start to see tie up with Hurricane Sandy. Bix Weir's actually talked a lot about the Hurricane Sandy ritual and what happened with the DTCC that flooded all of the credit default swap securities, all the physical pieces of paper that kept ownership records of who owned these securities. And now there's no record of them for anybody. And we find ourselves in a real precarious situation after 2013 that nobody's really been able to reconcile yet. So you have all these things that are surrounding the 9/11 ritual, in addition to whatever the heck the motive was to destroy these buildings outside the ritual. We're not going to talk to that motive today. I'm going to talk about a supposition that I have of the Pentagon itself because of all of the 77s and how they are used by the Templars themselves. So I'd like everybody to have a little bit of a perspective here, because we're talking about faction wars at all time. So I think that if we can always assume that these faction wars are playing out, as we've become pretty astutely aware of on the channel, all of us, that multiple factions are embattled or at odds with each other, at least, it's to the direction of the way they think the world should and needs to go. And so I think it would be really silly, with that in mind, for all the other research that we have, if we held that as an aphorism or as a truth, and didn't also consider that 9/11 may have had multiple factions at play that day too. And what were the moves that those factions made? And how do we tell which moves were made by which faction? Because we've got a lot of events, right? We've got some things that, sorry, my cords. My cord got wrapped up in the chair. I didn't want it to snap on me. But we've got factions, and we have events that happened on that day. There was The crater that was mysteriously found in Pennsylvania, the Keystone State we were talking so much about being at the linchpin of the election fraud and all the chaos surrounding that. As the Keystone comes out, so does the archway. Remember, the flag was sewn on 239 Arch Street by Betty Ross. That was the original 13 colonies flag, the flag that represented New Jerusalem. The original 13 colonies square footage equals that of one of the of the surface area of one of the sides of New Jerusalem, effectively showing again the Templar handprint on the formation, at least of the self-sovereign nations that they intended this place to be. New Atlantis, New Jerusalem, doesn't matter what you call it. Because it's all the same. It's all the same thing to bring the relics here. So you have factions at play all over the jockeying of power going back to these moments. And you also have to see that Pennsylvania being at the heart of the 9/11 ritual is key as well as this Pentagon one. Because I tell you what, while I think the 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers was carried out by people who commandeered the Star Wars space technology for whatever reason. See Judy Wood's research. We don't need to talk about her lecture here. We've done that in the past on several videos. But she's one, if you've never gone into this order of thinking, that you need to look at to see that the energy weapons that are up there have the capability to disassemble any matter or any material that they so point this thing at. So it's an oscillation technology. It's Nikola Tesla tech. So this was carried out by some evil people. Bankers looking to establish control on the banking coup. The Eagle faction that currently has so-called control of our country, the military industrial guys. Remember last time how I was showing that with the goddess on the front of these coins, the silver and the gold, the V75 Privy 75th anniversary, since the victory of World War II, and how the eagles are on the back, and how liberty and the United States of America are actually opposing forces on the same coin, heads and tails. And a libertarian society doesn't have a governing body. Everybody's self-sovereign, just like the country was founded on the principles of. And the goddess of Columbia, representing the serpent, reigns supreme on the front. And showing how this tied up with, of course, all of these cosmological rituals with Venus and the Washington Monument, how last time in the last video, how this is going to be a time of reset for our economy, at least ritualistically. How long will it take till we see the effects of that? I actually don't know the answer to that. Maybe weeks, maybe months. But the behind-the-scenes actions will be put into place here on December 21st, which may also be, to a lot of different researchers' recalculations, the actual end of the Mayan long count this year, right? So why is it that I'm talking about the eagles and the goddess? Well, the serpents are the ones that are in a faction that are very, very secretive with how they choose to insert themselves. They're a lot smarter about it than the eagles are, you might say. Side note, if you intend to learn about the eagle versus serpent divide, ancient war of these two factions, I will reference this in the description, but the Higher Side Chats had a gentleman named Matthew LaCroix on the podcast just a few weeks ago. And this is one of the better, quick-hitting, comprehensive primers that I can give you on somebody who is well-versed in that without me having to get into the weeds too much because of what we're talking about being so much more centered on the reset scenario. But I will have you consider that the evil faction taking apart the Twin Towers had a lot of other plans to do more damage to the economy in 2001, as referenced in the 1981 Wishes and Rainbows comic, the original one, where Ruda was writing in the sand, as Bix Weirs pointed out, the equation that 9/11 would be this presumed reset day. And in a way, it was the reset of our consciousness, because the old paradigm did die that day. The matrix broke, just like the gematria suggests, the matrix broke. But I would submit to you that the Pentagon, being what it is, was attacked by the faction representing the reverse of the spell, the Templars themselves. Anybody who's got half a brain knows that this is not an airplane impact, no, any more than the crater that was found in Pennsylvania is that an impact. So the 9/11 crash site, Flight 93, crashed right at the 46 minutes after takeoff, 44 minutes. This is September 11th. So if anybody remembers, this 93 is used a lot in Saturnian rituals. So this 93 representing Saturn crashing the supposed flight into the ground to render damage to your enemy, being Saturn. It's one way you can look at this in terms of a spell casting point of view. Hi, Marshall Pullen. Nice to have you. Thanks for joining the stream tonight. So what you can infer here in my eyes is two planes hit two towers from one faction, and two something else make impacts elsewhere. Flight 93 to show impact on Saturn, because Saturn equals 93 in gematria, just in case you were wondering why that matters. Also, the Route 93 Las Vegas shooting. If you look at that ritual, that has 93 all over it, that Las Vegas shooting. We won't get into that tonight either, because it'll get too far away from what we mean to discuss. But I submit to you that when you look at the wreckage, if they can even show it, they just had scattered pieces everywhere. You know, some engine components, and a lot of people have studied this stuff closely and proven that it's components that go to different aircraft, that, you know, it's just like a bunch of different components to a bunch of different aircraft. So there's a lot to this story that I think purposefully, if you're going to have a ritual play out, you're going to, as the person shooting maybe a missile into the ground, let's just say missile gets shot into the ground in Pennsylvania, missile gets shot into the side of the Pentagon, much more likely, given the impact zones. And we start to see a little bit easier picture. What do we know since we've done the Earth Grid Network series with the alchemy over on Patreon, where we're talking about the spells that play out using the telluric energies of the Earth? Well, don't you think that the Pentagon itself is a pretty big ritualistic component for whoever's got complete control over it? And if the faction that's using that Pentagon, the military-industrial complex of 2001, was using this 9/11 day alongside the bankers to commandeer control, don't you think a well-placed missile to interrupt the spell, maybe with some individuals who had something to do with this, would be a possible counterattack that you could render? Maybe you couldn't stop what they were already having in motion by destroying, or having a plan to destroy, the Twin Towers and reset the banking system around a digital economy. But this, I would say, buys them time. Oh, by the way, the additional symbology of 75, one of my viewers pointed out, 75th anniversary is also called the Diamond Anniversary. The diamond is the shape of the District of Columbia. where the ritual that we're going to see take place on December 21st of this year happen. 75th anniversary is important. Why? Well, remember the Privy 75 V75 mark on the coin that's going to signify that the changeover is happening. The serpent faction, the goddess faction, is going to restore liberty to the land, discard the eagle government, and restore liberty. There's another story here that factors directly into it. That I wasn't aware of. Story broke October 11th of last year, but this got by me. U.S. Mint is redesigning the gold and silver eagle coins to implement security devices in them. This kind of goes hand in hand with the ritual that they're showing with these privy markers. I'll tell you why. Because when you look at this, you're seeing that before COVID hit, they were planning on redesigning these by 2021. Right in line with the ritual that they clearly built Washington, D.C. around, the diamond-shaped district. Remember, go to my last video here and watch this, and you'll see what that ritual is and how the ellipse, the shape of the ellipse and that park on the 21st of this year will be important to complete the ritual that started naturally in the cosmos on the 7th of July of this year. 77 all over this ritual. Again, back to the Pentagon. Why is it important? Well, again, I'm arguing that this is a counter move, a counter spell. You got wizards versus sorcerers. The wizards are on the Templar side. The sorcerers are on the Vatican side, Sorcerer City, right? There's feast iconography all over this, guys. 125 people were killed inside the Pentagon. 5 times 5 times 5. The marker of the Templar. The construction of Washington Monument, 555 feet tall, equaling 6,666 inches. 55.5 feet at the base equals 666 inches. 666 is a moniker for knowledge, knowledge being hidden. A great revealing is happening as ascribed to these rituals that are playing out. And by the way, guys, 18 and a half years ago is when 9/11 happened. Rahu and Ketu were in Sagittarius and Gemini. This is when massive shifts occur. So you have the sorcerers and the astrologer priests, again, using the propensity of the energy of the stars to inflict damage as much as they can, but the Templars know the tricks too. So 125 people killed. That's a marker. You can't prove how many people were killed in there, actually, I don't think, ever, because of all the security privileges you'd have to have. But there you go, 5 times 5 times 5, 555. 41,000 concrete pilings were destroyed. Remember the 41s all over the rituals that we see out of the silver reset. Silver is 77. Silver is the mechanism that they had to hide in 9/11 to keep the economy from revaluing back to true markets. 41. 41 is Mercury and Hermeticism. 41 is Oz. We were shot at 41 is mainstream, dishonest, all of disinfo. We were talking about this as it relates to the ritual at hand to keep everybody in the entertainment world. The Kobe Bryant ritual I shared with you guys last time to show you how 41 works as it relates to this as well. But I'm submitting to you that you use your head a look. 1941, 41, again, another 41 on September 11th was when this building began construction. Ironically, they say it began construction on September 11th, 1941. Not a mistake. So there's something here where the counterspell, in my eyes, in my view, the Templars very well may have rendered a counterattack, and nobody has ever, at least that I've talked to, heard of, considered this as a perspective that's worth picking apart. So I'm submitting it to you now, because we're still using our Phrygian caps. Got another Phrygian cap tie for you guys. Zelda: Link to the Past. The reason why we need to go back to the past first in order to piece together the banking ritual now and tie it all together will become apparent in a second. But Zelda: A Link to the Past. Again, here we go. Here we are with the Z steganography. I was planning on covering a lot more Z steganography stuff at some point and was going to do a lot more Zelda then. But there was too much going on with the Triforce being hidden. The Triforce, remember, the St. Augustinian Trinity that we've talked so much about on the channel. St. Augustinian Trinity is this construct. Oh, I think I went past it. I did indeed. There it is. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And then God is all in the middle. These just being aspects of the whole. This is the lost knowledge. This is the Trinity. This is the Triforce that you find. It's the link to the past to understand where we came from, understand metaphysics, understand God. We have to look at things this way. And even the story about the imprisoning war, just like the matrix that we live in, we're in some imprisoned war where we all have amnesia. We don't quite know what happened. That's what our goal is to figure this out. But if we were once in the sacred realm, the Triforce is hidden there, and we have to find where that is. The Chitta is the sacred realm, the noose. We have to break the ties around our noose. That's what this new age is all about. The age of Leo, right? Not the age of Aquarius like most people think, but the age of Leo. This is where we're at here on the ascending cycle in the Bronze Age, right about here. About ready to lock into Leo, right here. Aquarius, much more appropriately, is where Atlantis fell when the floods came. So what does this have to tell us, looking at the past and talking about the wizards that are at play? This wizard was actually an evil wizard, casting spell on the soldiers, kidnapping the young maidens, descending from the 7 sages, the 7 chakras, right? It attempts to break the spell and using their powers in an attempt to break the seal placed on the sacred realm. So you've got wizards working for a cause that's breaking the spell, basically. Remember, wizards in general, as we've said, like our buddy Steve Jobs, where do I have that? Or I don't know if I have it up anymore. Yes, I do. It's here. Where Steve Jobs, where Bill Gates, rather, is quoted saying, he was such a wizard at over-motivating people. I was a minor wizard, so I couldn't fall under his spells, but I could see him casting the spells, all this stuff that we've gone over so many times. And, of course, the gematria that we ascribe it all to with the Wizard of Oz rituals. Okay? So there is a spell being broken when you see something like this, or at least an attempt at fizzling the spell, as you might put it. And it bought us some time so the banking reset, I would argue that one faction wanted the banking reset to occur right here on 9/11. Because they and their astrologers likely knew and were in a race against the clock against this astrology. It's my supposition that the Templars intended for the transition to happen right here, right now. And that there was a faction, again, that was in control of taking down the Twin Towers, that was headquartered here at the Pentagon, had the Earth Grid Control Network, the DC Parasite Network. Go back to my work on YouTube of last year, and you can learn all about the DC Parasite Network and what that conveys in the ley line structures of the Earth, right? all to where we can save the ritual and protect the ritual by way of the Templars erecting fences around this thing, lining it with security detail, so we could transition into something, right? I want you guys to keep an eye on the NFL for this year. We've been keeping an eye on the NFL a lot. The Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've talked about the Buccaneers because of the Jolly Roger. They represent the Templars themselves. The Buccaneers, the Jolly Roger. X marks the spot. X marks the spot on the New Madrid fault, where the two completed paths of the solar eclipses happen 7 years apart from each other. The cosmology for the 7 years of tribulation attributed into the book of Revelation. The Vesica Pisces is where the X is pointing to. And the Vesica Pisces, that the phallic symbol of the Washington Monument now sits inside of, to cast a shadow going through, of course, the Vesica Pisces, the birth canal, to inseminate the egg on the 21st of this year. The Buccaneers are important because of the Templars hiding the actual Christ knowledge. The Seahawks are important because they represent Horus and the ability to look directly into the sun, and so in a way they represent Christ. We also have, when you're looking at these other factions, they're doing terribly. The Eagles who won Super Bowl 52, the last significant Super Bowl 52, remember 5 times 5 is 25. When you flip it reverse, it's 52. And what was Super Bowl 52? The Glass-Steagall Bowl, where they played Super Bowl 52 in a glass stadium, U.S. Bank Stadium, up in Minnesota. One of the places, of course, it's very significant because where the Kensington Runestone is. The place where the Templars originally had their land claim for the United States. 200 years before Columbus ever set foot here, 150 years before Columbus ever set foot here. This is all maybe why they, as the Templars, are showing us things like this, and maybe why they have the authority to say this is what the principles always were. Abolish the government. Return it to liberty. Return the land to liberty. All of the teams that are doing well, the Buccaneers, the Saints, which is the fleur-de-lis, right? The fleur-de-lis on top of the phoenix's head that burns the old system to the ground. Those are the Saints. And you've also got the Pittsburgh Steelers and Buffalo Bills doing really well. The Patriots are sucking wind. The Patriot faction, where the Patriot Act got instituted right after all of this and reigned with all those Super Bowls and Tom Brady for all those years, they now suck, and Tom Brady's playing for the other side. Okay? And then you have the Steelers at 9-0, the best team of all. And the Buffalo Bills, of course, representing the Nikola Tesla paradigm and the technology of Nikola Tesla because of the Niagara Falls institution of hydroelectric power, with his first application where people started to realize what his genius was. But it's actually the Pittsburgh Steelers where it gets weird, guys. Because again, Keystone State, Pennsylvania. What do we know about Pennsylvania? Go back to this video, tie the knots together. But we're talking about real briefly here. Pennsylvania is at the linchpin. They call it the Keystone State. And it is at the heart of whoever proves the election fraud for or against one candidate or the other. Let's say Trump proves the election fraud exists in this state, as well as Georgia and Michigan. This is all he needs to overturn everything. And the Keystone gets taken out of the arch, and the arch of the country falls down. Remember, the original 13 colonies, which were not this United States, that was when we were still a libertarian society, New Jerusalem proper, in its infant stage, that's when we had the flag sewn and the moniker of the Keystone State labeled. So the Keystone State is all over everything that's pervading from here on in. And so you got to watch Washington, D.C. inside the diamond on the diamond anniversary, the district of Washington, D.C., the protection that they're rendering around Ellipse Park to allow this ritual to happen. And then you also have to see the election steal that was attempted. The Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Not the same kind of steal, but when you're casting magic, it's the same harmonic structure when you speak it. It's a clue. The election stealers, or the attempt at to steal the election, right? You look at their logo, and their logo is the classic Steelers Union, when steel was the predominant output of the city. But you've got red and blue, but then you have gold at the top. And I'm wondering how to interpret this. But to me, it says the gold system is coming in, and this is the top. Red is going to win the election fraud over blue, over this election steal. But gold, a new standard, a reset, is actually what we're going to get. Because after the fraud is proven, the arch is going to collapse. As everybody correctly ascribes, I don't think there's going to be a lot of agreement as to what to do from there with the leadership. So could this be a canvassing mechanism, yet again, of what's happening? I'm beginning to see the NFL in light that has nothing to do with like any Zionist factions or anything that Zach would point out. Because the Templars use gematria too, I'm actually starting to see the NFL and the MLB, the baseball and the football leagues, as tools of the Templars, at least now, to cast the spells in favor of us finding things out. I don't think it's always been that way. But just like anything, you can requisition a tool like the NFL. It's a mind control device. And if one faction gets control of it, they can now use it for whatever they want. And I think this is what the whole thing with Tom Brady going from the Patriots to the Buccaneers this year was all about. The chosen one, the best player that ever lived, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. The scapegoat is, one way that I think you can also look at those things. The scapegoat for what? The scapegoat for the spell. And this is a very Hebrew concept, and that's so again, something we'll go into another time. But that I'm setting the stage for Pittsburgh now. It's another Pennsylvania state because as it relates to the 75th anniversary here, 75 in the Bible also is the year of Jubilees. Talked about that last time too, where Jubilees happen every 75 years. And it's interesting because if you simply look at the other team that plays in town that has the same colors, the same gold colors as the Steelers, it's the Pirates. You're starting to see where I'm going with this, guys. Pirates are Templars. What were we talking about? Buccaneers, Pirates are Templars. So there's a connection here. This Keystone State. I mean, just look at 115 Federal Street. We've talked about how this number connects to V steganography in the past as well. Is the address of the park, and it's sponsored by PNC Bank. PNC Bank. This is where it's starting to get fun. Hey, Chef. Tom's a Trump fan too. Would you mind elaborating on who Tom is for me, Chef? Or Mike Tomlin, is that what you mean? The head coach, is that what you're talking about? Mike Tomlin of the Steelers. But what I'm getting at here is we've got some tie-overs with PNC Park, the Pirates, in a recent announcement that got made the other day. PNC, ooh, that's not a color I want. Ugh, you guys can't read that very well. Let me get this out. Let me get yellow instead. Oh, Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a Trump fan too. I see what you're saying, Tom Brady. Yeah, I have heard that as well. I haven't watched the narratives of the football players in quite some time, since I was unindoctrinated from all of this, just to show that, you know, the results are predetermined in some fashion. They're, you know, but good point to make either way, Shaft. Thanks for the ad. Back to the presentation, guys. Again, the Pirates, the Templars are associated here in some way with both of these outfits. And PNC, the bank that sponsors the Pirates and always has since the opening of that ballpark, made a key acquisition this last week. So November 16th, press release came out that PNC, alongside the Spanish financial group Banco Bilbao, because their acquisition, BBVA, is headquartered over there. They made an $11.6 billion purchase of BBVA to make them the fifth largest bank in the United States by asset size. V steganography right out of the gate, right? 11.6 billion has something to do, I think, with the date numerology too, because of how it matches. It didn't have a ton to do with what we're talking about when we broke it down, but the 104 billion of assets that BBVA, you would say Bank Shares assets holds in Houston. It's the reverse of 41. And the reverse of the spell for the gematria as it relates to, of course, Wizard of Oz, whatever the Oz ritual is that's keeping us down, the bank lies that you know, seep into our everyday lives. And what you end up getting, though, is ultimately, I saw right away when I saw this story, even beyond the V steganography I was able to find that connects to what we're studying. If you guys have never seen PNC's logo, this is PNC's logo. It's the St. Augustine Trinity laid over the top of Bitcoin orange. Bitcoin orange, it's the same shade. I've taken this and applied matching to it in Photoshop with a sampling of different, you know, the color varies a little bit depending on where you get the logos from, but the tolerance is so close. It's uncanny. It's Bitcoin orange with the St. Augustinian Trinity at the middle. And my argument, of course, with the Wizards and the Templars is that they are Satoshi Nakamoto in some manner or fashion. Steve Jobs, in my eyes, was one of these Templars. And Alan Greenspan appears to be one of these Templars, along with a couple of other folks that you should watch Bix Weir's work, so I don't, you know, steal his thunder for, you know, educating you guys about his stuff. But what we're finding specifically with the banking rituals is that the guys with the metaphysics are taking control. The guys with the metaphysics, where are we going here? The St. Augustinian Trinity, the guys that understand the metaphysics. Remember, this is also the angular geometry of Cliff High's research with what he's calling the high effect, where he found out that locking into place 36 degree rotation of a fourth magnet in a triangular pattern like this creates a conduit to the ether. So the guys at PNC Bank, the guys that purchased BBVA, there's PNC's bank's logo, purchased BBV Lambda. This is the other thing, guys. BBVA went through a branding transition just this year. I know because I live in Arizona, and they're big down here. They're big in the Southwest. I see these guys on a lot of different corners. They're just as big as like Chase or Bank of America. I see just as many of these. And at some point during the spring, I saw the signs change over to this, from this BBVA to this BBVA. The V and the lambda clearly prepping for something. I mean, prepping for what? I would now argue this event where PNC buys them out or merges them together. BBVA Compass is what they were called before. Remember, the compass is the tool of the navigator. I think they were both Templar-controlled banks to begin with, but I think they consolidated to make a power move. And you guys, I'll link the description for, PNC Bank's history. It's actually pretty interesting. I was reading through that, and where BlackRock was associated with it in somewhere too, which was interesting because here it was. BlackRock acquired SSRM Holdings, the holding company of State Street Research Management Company, from MetLife. This transaction expanded the scale and scope of BlackRock's mutual fund products and distribution capabilities, as well as strengthened them as a global leader in fixed income assets. So they're talking, and this is what I currently need to go back and look at, because that's a real interesting move to be in with BlackRock. But the point that we're going to stick with is that they're buying BBVA, and the preparation with the V steganography and the balance of it too, by the way. Also, side note, Death Stranding. Anybody that's watching me play Death Stranding, remember, BB. You've got the BB attached to yourself. What does that signify? It's a hint, right? I'm gonna break down the rest of that game when I'm done playing it. I haven't been streaming. I've just been blowing through it just so I can get it done. And so if you guys have been wondering where I'm at with that game, I'm just playing it by myself. But this is where it gets really even crazier, guys. Watch this. When you go and you take a look at what BBVA's headquarters is, this is the shape of their headquarters. It is an egg. It is an arch. It is the perfect shape for all of the rituals that we're talking about because of the shape of Ellipse Park, right? And the phallus penetrating into it. The phallus shadow of the Washington Monument penetrating the ellipse up here at that point in the year. Here's Ellipse Park up here. What happens on the solstice of this year is this shadow becomes very long and it penetrates just barely right at this point on Ellipse Park. Again, Ellipse Park, White House is right across the street in the lawn. Ellipse Park has an impenetrable fence around it to protect this ritual this year. Hey, K-Dax, good to have you on the stream, man. Thanks for stopping by. You missed the shout out earlier where I shouted you out, but I'll shout you out again now that you're on the stream. So this is essentially what they're protecting. And of course, BBVA, the bank acquired by PNC, Bitcoin Orange with the Augustinian Trinity, which of course Bitcoin is a metaphysical concept. So this may have as well be a glyph for sound money. Don't know what the bank structure is going to be or going to convey. But now that they're merged with these guys and that they have this arch ritual in the Keystone State in Pennsylvania, take the keystone out of the arch, remove BBVA and take the keystone out of the arch falls, and the egg it gets inseminated by this sundial phallus, right? All in alignment with this ritual on the 21st this year, guys. Why does this matter to the NFL even more? Well, it got weirder as I kept looking into this. Leads more credence to the fact that the Templars truly are in control. Super Bowl 55 is this year. So there's your other V steganography. Remember, the last significant V steganography Super Bowl was Super Bowl 52, which the Philadelphia Eagles won. And remember in the video, and I'm going to reference Odyssey because not all the videos on Odyssey are up yet, but the ones that have transferred, these 3 right here actually are there for you to watch and learn about the ritual that was at play. If you want to go to the YouTube channel and see they played out actually back. Yeah, maybe do want to go to the YouTube channel if you want to watch that ritual and just start with the beginning of the year onward. And you'll see what I was talking about with Super Bowl 52 at some point when I was comparing Super Bowl 54 rituals and what this year's would be. And I said this year's Super Bowl was going to be a really big deal and whoever was participating in it. And we have, again, the candidates being, if you go to the standings back on ESPN that we were showing, we've got the Buffalo Bills, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Buffalo Bills representing Nikola Tesla technology, Pittsburgh Steelers representing the Libertarian faction, reinstituting gold for the election steal, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you have, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, the commander-in-chief, Donald Trump. The Philadelphia Eagles are ahead of their division with 3 wins, and they're doing terribly. The Dallas Cowboys, the Washington faction, the New York Giants, like all of the factions that in the East Coast that represent the cabal essentially are doing terribly. And the Philadelphia Eagles, remember, won that Glass-Steagall Super Bowl in the Glass Stadium, U.S. Bank Stadium. And the ritual was all about the Glass-Steagall Act being repealed by Bill Clinton before he left office to get us into the credit default swap process in the first place that would allow for the 9/11 ritual to take place and wash the books clean. So you're starting to see a little bit of the bigger picture, right? The G-Men, the Green Bay Packers representing the Freemasons. Freemasons being the intelligence network of the Templars. Then you've got, of course, the New Orleans Saints, like we said, representing the collapse of the old money system, requisition the control from the eagle. And then the Buccaneers, the Templars themselves, and the Seahawks. Seahawks equals Horus and the ritual of conveying the symbol of Christ and the consciousness of Christ that's going to be coming out in the public. Also, space technology tied in with the Buffalo Bills in some form or fashion. So the Super Bowl this year, 55, is a big deal. All of the factions that we would see, all of the beats that we would have anticipated earlier in the year are all playing out based on the symbology that we see, just based on the teams that are still available. 55th Super Bowl was supposed to be played in LA. This is what's cool. 2020 season, where did it say it was supposed to be in Los Angeles? Los Angeles was originally chosen as the host site. However, due to construction delays, authority announced that SoFi Stadium would not be completed until the start of the 2020 season. NFL owners voted unanimously, but with the Rams' approval to move Super Bowl 55 to Tampa. The city of Inglewood will instead be hosting Super Bowl 56 in 2022. So that's what their new stadium is there. So this, as of 2017, was a ritual that the Templars took control of, Super Bowl 55. Because wouldn't you know it, it's at Raymond James Stadium, where the Templars play, where the Templar faction steganography plays, Tom Brady's home stadium, Tampa Bay. That's where Super Bowl 55 is hosted, on the home turf of the Templars, is what you can essentially say. What does this convey? It's February 27th. We've talked about the number 27. And just its connection, also predominantly 27 letters in the Hebrew alphabet is the main one I always point to. But this is an interesting thing to have happened, guys. Alongside all of the sports that you're seeing, the Pittsburgh Steelers representing the election steal, the banks reset rituals, And also, remember the 555 Theta wallet that's at Binance? Binance's logo is with the V and the lambda. Binance just stopped selling Theta to U.S. customers. You can no longer get Theta sourced from Binance if you are a U.S. customer. The 555 ritual has begun, guys. Because day and date, with this purchase of BBVA to become the 5th largest bank, Binance, based on the V steganography apparent to it, and if you look at the shape of its logo, it's a diamond, just like the yellow diamond on the Steelers logo. There you go. The diamond anniversary, guys. Steelers might just take the Super Bowl this year, institute the keystone collapse that we need, right? But it's just an interesting happening for everybody to keep in mind, because as it goes, we don't have any clue what the United States will be like if and when it returns to a libertarian society. When the fall of this faction takes place, it's just a ritual on the 21st. How many more steps need to happen before we actually have a free society? Geez, I don't know. But as I'm going to show in the YouTube video, the election fraud looks very much like it's going to be proven. And this keystone ritual will play out just as I have anticipated this whole time, it appears. Bitcoin reset and all is what it would seem. On a side note, the Pentagon itself, after 3 failures, now says it won't be able to produce a clean audit until 2027. This was just a piece of news from the other day. 227, 22 divided by 7 is 3.14. That's pi. So every time you see 227, that's what you can associate this with. But they're talking about their books being so dirty at the Pentagon that they can't possibly reconcile them till 2027. Does this mean that that's how long the ritual is going to take to play out? Is this how long the financial reset takes to play out? Hello, Zhuang. How are you? Thanks for joining the stream. I guess I could go check on DLive here too. Everybody over on DLive is we got a few people over on DLive too. Hey, Raypax Trucking Company and HP watching over on DLive, and not anybody watching over on Twitch anymore, but. This is how long I'm thinking this auditing process might take, a clean audit. So how long does it take to disassemble an old system and build a new one? Well, we now have a clue that the Templars maybe on this day reinstituted control over the Pentagon. And since then, the failed coup on the banking attempt, the attempt at collapsing it by a certain faction, was thwarted by a counterspell ritual to shoot a missile at the very symbol that they were drawing power from, rendering them weak. Kadak said, "This is an interesting date. How would they know that it would take 7 years to audit?" That's exactly right. That's my question I have too. Same thing as you, Kadax. How would they know exactly how long it's going to take to audit it? It's very interesting. All ritual though. I mean, to make this transition happen, maybe from a psychological perspective, they simply know how long it's going to take too. But we course ever closer to Bitcoin's 20,000 day or $20,000 penetration mark. In fact, as we speak, I may just have to check just to make sure it's to make sure it's not there now. Oh yeah, it's coming back down. It keeps kissing up against Bitcoin. Keeps kissing up against 19,000 and then drop them back. KDAX says 3 failures, 3 strikes, they're out. I don't know. I don't know if it works that way. Referencing this article again, after 3 failures, 3 strikes, you're out. Baseball. I can see what you're saying. Yeah, like maybe with what we're talking about alongside the Pirates and all that. I see what you're saying. I like your train of thought there. But other news before we close out the Patreon stream here. PayPal's crypto trading goes live in the US. So PayPal, we talked about already, was going to announce payments, but they're going to launch their crypto trading platform as well. And this is actually coming before Coinbase even launches it. I don't know where everybody's going to be able to source their crypto from at some point. It's going to become scarce and expensive, and then people will probably sell it. But the beginning of 2021, PayPal will have an exchange service for crypto. Crazy, crazy times. We haven't seen anything yet, I guess, is what I mean to say. And before I leave you guys with just, again, this is all affirmation to the ritual that's happening on the 21st, just showing you that we're along for the ride of the banking collapse. There's nothing we can do at this point except protect ourselves with sound money. And the wrong way to do it is what I want to point out. This is an old scheme that hopefully some of you in the community would remember from 2017 called BitConnect. And BitConnect was a Ponzi scheme that, and I love the graphic that they drew over at Cointelegraph because it's a fox faction with a BitConnect thing in his mouth. I wonder the T and the lightning bolt, if Cointelegraph itself isn't a Templar organization. I've always wondered that about Cointelegraph. They have such good art, and they're very specific about what they're conveying with their symbology. The Fox faction with BitConnect, it wouldn't surprise me one bit with the symbology of the lightning bolt, Nikola Tesla tech, T for Tesla, T for Templar. BitConnect, yeah. Yes, KDAX. So we do have some people out there that are all about the BitConnect. And I think on this article that I will reference, here it is. This is what KDAX was just talking about. This is the guy that he's referencing.
And let me tell you that we are really changing the world as we know it. The world is not anymore the way it used to be. No. Be connect! Wow! Be connect! Be connect! Thank you so much, Carlos from New York City. We're very excited, super.
So this is the Ponzi scheme thing that they do with MLMs, as you know. And BitConnect was exactly that. Like, this was just one of these things that became a meme on the internet back then in the crypto community, because so many people lost their shorts in this platform that ascribed that it would give you returns in commissions for those people that you signed up. It was like so obvious to people in the crypto community, but so slick in its marketing that it got so many suckers in on it. And they lost their shorts. So I'm going to list this platform, this article that Cointelegraph did that talks about Ponzi schemes and all this stuff, so you can educate yourself on this. It's really interesting. But I have one that I want to share that I keep seeing marketed right now. That's another BitConnect. It's the same business model, and I shared this in the Discord already. So this might be not new information to some, but for anybody coming to this video from elsewhere, we have another platform that is resemblant of BitConnect. So here's the deal. It looks just like a reputable platform. The functionality's there. Oh my gosh, customizable user interface. And you get to this thing where you go to the referral. Friends traded together. Invite friends to RondoBit. Send them your referral link. They register, and now you earn a reward for 40% commissions on their trades. Now, if anybody is not even versed in finance. Let's just think about that figure for a second. 40% commissions are promised for everybody in your like downline, essentially. This is what BitConnect was too. BitConnect, they started ratcheting up the numbers on the screen that you had. They showed you that you had all this Bitcoin. You didn't actually have this Bitcoin. Rondo bit. Yeah, KDAX, exactly. You didn't actually have all this Bitcoin, but it said in your account that you did. And so this is actually a rinse and repeat type tactic that the very same crypto cabal is likely propagating on people. And so I implore you to keep watch out for this, because your baby boomers in your life are typically well, with exceptions. I actually have educated plenty of them to be a little bit smarter with a lot of this stuff lately. It's not that the baby boomers can't learn. It's just that they don't know how to assess it because it's so foreign to them. And they saw the internet thing pass them by, and now they're all retiring. Everything's uncertain with COVID, and they want to make money. And so I'll be actually plugging my own stuff here for next week a little bit. In the more professional realm, I'll be giving a financial webinar for my buddy's RIA firm here in Scottsdale, where I'll be talking about Bitcoin, blockchain specifically, allowing questions from the audience. I'll post a little bit more information on that if you guys want to know over in Discord. And I'll send all the patrons a group message over on Patreon too when I know the time and day. Or it's going to be the 3rd. I don't know the day. It's going to be December 3rd, I believe. I just don't know the time we're going to be giving it. But it's going to be talking about this kind of stuff and what to look for a little bit deeper. Securities fraud and all that kind of thing, which is a really boring topic to talk about when we're doing steganography. But speaking of securities, Jay Clayton's also stepping down at the end of the year. So you have all these transitions happening where I don't know what's going to happen with the SEC as a body, as it governs these things. But I can see a clear path toward something crazy happening if the SEC doesn't institute somebody at its head, because, again, we're in a libertarian society. Maybe the president is in question and nobody's being assigned to these roles. That's a scenario I've thought about. We will see. Time will tell. But during Clayton's tenure, the SEC reportedly had orders for $14 billion in monetary remedies. There's that 14 again, the Wizard of Oz, and $114 million, some paid to whistleblowers. So a real short little article that they made, but there's the Cointelegraph publication for you again too. Watch out for Rondo bit and anything like it, and like I said, we'll have some lessons on that in the future. Another thing to point at, we've actually got, again, mainstream analysts, Citibank analysts, on November 16th saying pegging Bitcoin at $318,000. $318,000, I think, by next year, 2021, to reach over $318,000 in 2021. So we'll see, guys. We will see. If you don't have Theta, there are still a couple of different ways you can get that. Bitcoin is still attainable. But like I said, the United States is not able to get their Theta anymore for a while. KDAX says on Theta, is there a possibility that Tether will collapse from hyperprinting and bring down BTC? It could bring down the price of BTC momentarily, KDAX, but it won't. Bitcoin won't change in value to the hodlers if that happens. The hodlers are well aware of the Tether fiasco. Tether is tied in with EOS. It's bad news. There's a whole pedophile ring at the heart. So if you guys have not heard about this before, Mark Collins Rector. He is a convicted pedophile who no longer lives in the United States. Lives in Spain, I believe. There's that Spain again. He fled to Spain. And he owns the patent to YouTube. And seriously, the interface to YouTube, he owns the patent to it, this guy. And he runs EOS as well by way of an organization called Block One, which one of his peons, Brock Pierce, is, directly involved with. Look into that a little. Accusatory things in the crypto community are never good without basis. So this is a discussion we can always have where we can have the basis at some point. But to answer your question, yeah, it's Tether is bad news. It's supposed to be the stable coin, but regulatorily speaking, there's a scheme going to print this stuff out, and I can show you guys what that is at some point in the future. Shaft says in the Theta stream, I finally got some Theta on super sketchy Hotbit. Needed Tether to do it. Hey man, if you were able to use the Tether to get that transfer done, and then get those coins on a hard wallet, hey, you just won at the game of musical chairs. So good on you. It's not that the functionality won't work. It's when the risk really is in all this stuff, guys, is when musical chair stops. Do you have crypto in your own possession on a hard wallet with your own private keys that nobody else knows? And if that's the case, you're golden. But Shaft, dude, I hope that, yeah, nice. I hope that you're happy with all that, and that you've got your Guardian node situated so you can kind of play around with that. That'll be fun. But these are the times, guys. Another way that I think you can make some, now that we're talking about Theta, this is another thing I wanted to bring up. If you've got the Edge node on your computer, you can just download it for free, earn Theta Fuel. And they added folding at home. Back from the PlayStation 2 days. If anybody remember, like, folding at home has been around since then, but they launched on the PlayStation 2, and it was just this opt-in thing that folds proteins and learns how geometrically bioscience happens on so many different levels, specifically relating to proteins, so they can see health ramifications and help calculate more complex algorithms and things like this. You share your computing power. Well, they partnered with them, and you get a lot more Theta Fuel by having this turned on if you also have a high horsepower machine. I can tell you, I had this on one of my laptops running. My laptop's pretty powerful. But I turned this node on once they launched this functionality the other day. It was just 2 days ago. And it computes, it does these complete calculations, and then it dumps like 10 Theta Fuel in your account just for having the calculation done. Shaft says it generates loads of T-Fuel too. I have more than 10 per hour on an i7. Yeah. It's pretty great. So I recommend everybody go check out the Edge node, especially with this new functionality. It'll hypercharge the Theta Fuel that you can earn, and everybody can do it. So remember that in 2021, I think whatever we're going into, the banking system is going to be different. Ideally, we'll have a lot more money in our pockets collectively as a community, and we can, hopefully everybody out there's got some security in their pockets, so we could start doing things that are a little bit more in tune with research together. But as an assignment, I'll leave you guys with this in the community. Lady Hawk. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this movie with Michelle Pfeiffer. It's one of my favorite movies as a kid. My dad and I used to watch it. There's a ton of symbolism in this that I remembered, and I was just thinking about the Isis and Horus symbolism for Egypt, and I'm actually pretty convinced that I've got to go back and watch through this movie again, because Navarre sees a solar eclipse through a high window and realizes the curse really can be broken. The solar eclipse, to see through the eclipse, X marks the spot, right? The Templars are telling us something, that the spell can be broken. This movie, with the Hawk of Horus, the Christ consciousness, the spell can be broken. And what the Christ consciousness really conveys is that you should break the mind control spell of Saturn, right? Of Satan. So there's the homework assignment, kind of a fun one. This was, like I said, not as really intense as the last research video that I keep referring to here, but it locks into place, especially with the BBVA, who's got control of the banking system. Remember, the 5th largest bank by asset size, but they're also decentralized too. These Templars know decentralized banking. So anyway, that's it. We're going to go into the current war video next. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to play some music for anybody in the chat that wants to stick around. I'm going to end this recording. Come back. We'll do a current war video that I'll post to YouTube. And then for anybody that joined like halfway, I'll do my best to get these posted and processed by tomorrow. BitChute be damned if it's going to do it or not. But again, I'll be posting them to Odyssey from here on into in the community section. Oh, wait. Nope. In the channel section, I've got 2 channels. I'll be showing you guys on Patreon with a message, a link when I'm starting to upload over here as well, especially since BitChute's crapping out on me on processing these things. I will convey all those changes to you both in Discord and over on the Patreon servers. But yeah, I'll be back in a few. We'll talk about the current war update. We'll dive actually a little bit deeper into the election fraud stuff as it pertains to moving forward a little bit. And that'll be that. I'll play some music here, guys, like I said. And I'll end the recording there.